The sibling rivalry was big. I think that got us to where we were really. We obviously both very competitive people and always wanted to outdo each other. And I think that's still the case now. Obviously we don't play with each other much anymore, but when we're playing against each other or we're seeing on all the apps that the other one's doing well, we always want to sort of outdo each other. But yeah, Dad was obviously a big influence, and then just sort of coaches at the cricket club, just sort of local community coaches that sort of just run the teams. Dad was obviously around for most of them seeing the games, but yeah, obviously those coaches were sort of in charge. And obviously then at school, we had a few coaches. Matt Brimson was our first team coach when I was in the first team, sort of from year 10 through. So yeah, he obviously played at Leicester, so obviously he knew about first class cricket and knew what sort of was needed. So we spent a bit of time with learning from him, and yes, that was good.
The sibling rivalry, we sort of joked about it, but do you genuinely think that you two have got to where you've got today because you were constantly challenging each other? You did a bit better than he overtook, and then there was always that sort of competition between you both?
Yeah, definitely. You can't say it hasn't helped. It definitely has helped, and I don't think it's hindered it at all. It's meant that we've just both so competitive that we both wanted to beat each other, and sometimes it sort of got a bit feisty between us, and I'm sure most of you would know, but as we've got older, we've sort of mellowed in that sort of way, but we've both, still very competitive, and that's what drove us to get to the levels that we needed to.
What did you say to him when he hit you with the ball when you were batting against him?
I don't actually remember, if I'm being honest, so it's probably a good thing.
Who's better, you or Jamie?
We're very different.
Should we put it to the vote? Who's better, Jamie or Craig? Should I have hands for Craig? Unanimous.
Yeah.
There you are.
We'll take it.
We'll take that. You can let him know that.
Yeah.
What was it like when you found out that you were going to take it to the next level and were becoming a part of the Somerset pathway? Was that the moment that you thought, ooh, this might be a potential career, or was it just a case of, we'll see where this goes?
I think it's sort of Dad sort of instilled in us that don't expect anything, always just go out and try and work hard, and if it happens, it happens. And we sort of got to 15, sort of 16, just before sort of the academy started licking, and we sort of had a good couple of years sort of with Devon in the age groups, and started seeing Jace turn up to sort of games, obviously doing a little bit of scouting. Obviously he was the academy coach, director then, and I didn't really know who he was, if I'm being honest, but sort of the Devon coaches were obviously speaking to him and sort of getting ideas of a few players. And obviously then probably another year later that Jace sort of spoke to us and said, we want you to come up to join the academy. So yeah, that was 2 years on the academy, and it was probably a hard 2 years. Obviously it's probably very different than what it is now. I think the way Jace ran it was pretty old school, and obviously with the old S&C Darren Van Ness, it was, if most of you know Daz, he was sort of a ruthless, brutal S&C coach that he might not get away with things that you do now, that he did back then. So, but yeah, it was a great sort of 2 years, and I learned a lot about myself and the body, that what I can and can't do. So yeah, those 2 years were pretty phenomenal, really.
I mean, since Daz left, during pre-season we see less players throwing up in the car park.
Yeah, it's I guess it's come a little bit friendly. I think they still work pretty hard on the academy, but yeah, I think those brutal sessions that we used to do with the prowler and stuff of no more, which is probably
massive tractor tyre.
Yeah, which is they're probably the good things that they don't do anymore, because it certainly hurt a few bodies.
Was playing for Somerset always the dream?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, growing up in Devon, this was the closest team. Never really had any interest in playing for anyone else. It was always Somerset.
Not Surrey?
No, not them. Too far. I'm not really a London boy, so I like living in the country. So yeah, it's been great. Sort of the last 13 years now. It's been a memorable journey, and hopefully I've got a few more years left in me.
Let's go back again. You've talked about getting onto the academy. What was the point that you realised that actually this is going to be my job, this is going to be my career, this is where I belong?
Probably not for a few years from the start. It was quite a strange one, really. So end of the academy, sort of my second year, Rosie sort of comes up and goes, "Oh, you're in the squad for the next week," and I was like, "Really?" Like, I knew there was a few injuries, but I didn't really know too much, because we didn't spend too much time with the academy in the first team in those days. We do a bit differently now, but back then it was sort of you were each on your own. So Rosie sort of messaged his dad. Obviously, I don't think he had our numbers at that point, but because we were still, I think we just turned 18, so we were very, very young, and still doing exams. And Rosie sort of messaged Dad and said, boys are in the squad for this week, can you make sure they're there on day one? And Dad was like, yeah, that's fine, they'll be there. So we turned up, and Rosie sat us both down and said, Craig, you're going to play, Jamie, you're going to miss out this week. There were no other bowlers fit, basically, so it was... I got called up, and that was obviously a great first game. I don't actually remember doing much in the game, if I'm being honest. I think it was against Lancs, and it rained for 2 days, so we bowled for a day and a half of it, so I didn't do much. I know I got a wicket, that was about it really, so that's all that I remember really.
You say that playing for Somerset had always been the dream. What was it like walking into that dressing room for the first time with players that you may or may not have asked for their autographs in the past? What was it like, and was there anyone that sort of took you under their wing, or was there anyone that said, get out of my seat, young whippersnapper?
No, most were all pretty friendly really. Most? Most. I was the unfortunate or fortunate person to sit next to Triggs for his career, or the early starts of my career, so I thought that was quite good. Obviously Triggs was a big character in the dressing room, sort of took me under his wing, and then obviously we had, as a bowler, was Alfonso Thomas was sort of the lead bowler of that time, sort of coming through. Caddy had just finished, so he wasn't really around when I first started. But yeah, Fons was sort of a big character for both of me and Jamie, really sort of made sure that we were really welcome. I guess he was quite not a feisty cricketer, but he liked to sort of get into battles, and that helped him, and sort of we saw that in us, I guess. And yeah, he really sort of looked after us, and obviously Trez, no one really says a bad word about Trez, but Trez was phenomenal for us. Obviously, all the young lads in the dressing room made it, as captain, he made it so easy for those guys to come in. And you look at sort of those guys that came through at that sort of period, obviously Lewis, Leachy, me, Jamie, there's quite a lot of guys, Abes, there's probably 5, 6, maybe even more that sort of came through that sort of era that are still here now, that sort of learnt through Trez, Triggs, Hildy. Those sort of guys were sort of, it was just, the team that we had was phenomenal, and they sort of made it an easy transition for all of us to go into.
Well, with Peter Trigo as your social barometer, what could you possibly go wrong? You mentioned about your debut. How did it feel to walk out, although it was rain affected, as you said, how did it feel to walk out on the pitch with the wyvern on your chest, or dragon, depending on whether you listen to me or Anthony Gibson? How did it feel?
What is it?
I don't care. but wear the wyvern sounds better than donning the dragon, doesn't it? So we'll go with wyvern. Plus it makes Anthony really cross, so we'll say wyvern. How did it feel to walk out with that on your chest, sort of having fulfilled your childhood dream? Yeah,
it was obviously pretty special. I think it was, at that point, everyone, as a kid growing up, you want to play for England, but you also want to play first-class cricket. So to be able to play first-class cricket for Somerset was a pretty special thing, and to be able to walk out with the guys that were in the team was pretty inspiring, really. Like the guys, you obviously look up to them being at such a young age, and they were such a good team for those 3 or 4 years before that, and getting to all those finals and not quite getting over the line. It was obviously the championship they were playing pretty well, but they got close in that, was it 2010? They lost on batting points or whatever it was, something stupid. So it was, to see them sort of do so well, then to be a part of that group was obviously very special, and to be able to walk out there and call that my home now was pretty cool.
What's your best memory in a Somerset shirt so far?
Got a lot of memories there, Spence.
Right, we got about 45 minutes.
Obviously, the trophies that we've won are obviously pretty special. You go through a whole career, and some very good players don't win a trophy. So to be able to say those two T20 trophies and the sort of the 50 over are pretty cool. But I think having that 50 over trophy, I know that we've won 2 blasts now, but that 50 over trophy, not winning a trophy for so long here, and then getting over the line with probably quite a young group, really. The team was a good team, but we were still very young, really, sort of in our careers, and to be able to get over the line and sort of get a trophy back here after, 15, 16 years was pretty cool.
And obviously, was it a bit special that Jamie got player of the match in that game?
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I actually, not many people know this, but I actually think I pinged a calf in the warm-up. in that game, and I was like, I'm playing this game, and I could run and stuff, but I couldn't perform how I sort of probably should have. I bowled all right, but Jamie bowled phenomenally well, broke up the game for us, and I think he got 4 for, got all their big wickets. So obviously, I think Riley Rousseau was their big wicket at that point, and he'd whacked us around either the year before or the year after. And we got bowled out for 150, and he got 70 in 10 overs or something, and he faced 20 balls here when he whacked it everywhere. So I think to get him out was a big thing, and obviously we just kept chipping away with the wickets, and then obviously Bance and Azza carried on their form that they had in sort of the 2 previous games against Worcester and Notts, and we just went away with it really, and that was a special day in front of a big crowd from you guys coming up to Lords, so that was very special.
To make it more special that it was at Lords, I mean, no disrespect to Trent Bridge, it's a lovely venue, but it's not Lords, is it? You can't really have a Showpiece Cup final anywhere other than Lords.
No, and the fact that it was the last one as well obviously makes it very special. I think Lords it's the home of cricket really, so you want that 50 over final there really. I think the way the schedule works, it's almost impossible to for them to have it now, but to have a 50 over final is what every cricketer sort of my era growing up was dreaming of, and the older generations would always want a 50 over final at Lords or wherever it was a 60 over final or whatever. So to be able to have the final at Lords was pretty special, and to be able to lift a trophy there was pretty cool.
Given that we talk about the glory years a lot, and it is that limited overs, 50 over 40, 45, 60 over cricket, that has become so ingrained in the history of this club. Were the players aware of what that competition means and how important that victory in 2019 was to the fan base, given the history in the competition? Yeah,
I think so. I think we walk into where our changes are, and we've got a sort of a picture montage of sort of all the past, and you go through those years of the late 70s, early 80s, and you see all those trophies, and we're trying to emulate that. I think we probably haven't quite got there with the last couple of years, but obviously we've won trophies, so that's important. But we need to make sure that we keep trying to get to those finals, and that's where we want to be. We want to be winning trophies, and we feel like we've got a good team in the white ball side to be able to do that. And I think the red ball, we're very close. I think we need to work on a few things, but to be a team that's in, not two finals, but a semi-final, and then we win a final, and then to finish third in the championship we're doing a lot of things right, but some of those final hurdles in sort of the championship are the big things that we need to get across the line. And I think the blast is, we know where we are, and we know that there'll be a little improvements that we need to make, but we know that we're going to be probably a decent side, and we can go sort of get into those latter stages, but the championship is what everyone wants to win really.
How would you sum up 2025? There's probably about 16 other first-class counties who would have loved to win a trophy, get to a semi and finish third in the championship. Is it a season for celebration, or is it a season of frustration that you could have maybe improved slightly, maybe brought 2 trophies home? How would you sum up 2025?
I think it was probably a pretty good year really. I think the way we started in the championship was pretty awful. As we generally do start pretty awfully for some reason. I don't know why, but we just do. So to actually finish third and not be that far behind was, I think, a very good year, really. Obviously disappointing the way we started in the championship. I think that first game here, the way we played was obviously very good, but it took a lot out of us for fielding for however many overs we did, and we couldn't bowl them out, which then hurt the next game and probably the game after. We knew Sussex would always be generally a tough game. I know they're a side that just come up, but we knew they'd be a good team. And then obviously Surrey away is always a tough place to go and play. So we knew we had a fairly tough start to the season, and we knew that first game we needed to win, and to sort of get so close and not get across the line obviously hurt us a little bit. And then we shouldn't have, but we carried it into the next few games, and we didn't quite get it right in those games, but come that Essex game, we scraped our way through a win, and we then sort of carried on that momentum for the rest of the year, and we actually finished off really well, and to be 25 points behind after being probably 45, 50 adrift was very good. The young guys in the 50 over were phenomenal again. Obviously they've final the year before, semi-final this year, so they're constantly working hard and improving, and I think they came up against a pretty good Worcester side. They obviously didn't lose that many players, but credit to them, they played really well, and I think they deserved to win the trophy at the end of the day. I think that 50 over comp is obviously the guys that go away during the 100, which is what we end up doing. But the guys that end up playing in that 50 over comp should play in the finals, and I didn't really agree with what Hampshire did with bringing players in for the finals and the semi-finals to try and get to the final. I think you should stick with your guys, and I know, speaking to a lot of guys here, that we want to take away from the guys getting to that final or semi-final or whatever. And credit to them, they did really well, and they just came up against a side better on the day in Worcester, and that happens in cricket sometimes. But yeah, the Blast is obviously a phenomenal thing. We've got a very good side, and we know we're going to win games at Taunton because we know we're a very good side. So hopefully that continues. And but yeah, it was a pretty phenomenal year, and to be able to get to where we did in the summer is good. I think a lot of counties would be jealous of where we are.
How do we build on that success? It's important that we don't look at trophy in the bank, third in the Champo, semi in that. Important not to rest on the laurels, isn't it? Have you had some sort of honest and frank discussions about how we use 2025 as a stepping stone to more success this year? Yeah,
definitely. I think obviously the big thing is we start well in the Championship. I think we know we've probably got a fairly tough start again. So with Notts being the champions, and then we go to Essex, which is generally not a place we perform that well at. So we know we're going to have to try and actually turn up for the first couple of games, and if we get a win and a draw out of those two games, I think we'll be in a great spot. And I think it's being realistic that you're not always going to win away from home. But if you're hard to beat when you're away from home, you're generally going to be up there, and you can win your home games. You'll be there and thereabouts at the back end of the year. So we found a way of winning games of cricket in Taunton, which is always generally been quite hard sometimes. The wicket does get flatter, so winning games in Taunton is big, but then not losing away from home is a big thing. And we managed to win away from home. Did we do it once or maybe twice last year? I know we definitely did it once at Durham. But yeah, it's a hard thing to do because teams are obviously very good at home, and they set up their conditions to suit them. So as long as we don't lose away from home and get those results at home, we'll be in a good spot come sort of September when we were competing for a championship, hopefully. And then the Blasts, the big goal is to retain it. I think that, as you've seen, no other team has retained the Vitality Blast, and to be in 3 finals in the last 3 years is obviously pretty special. But hopefully we get another one and able to retain it, I think that's the big thing for us. And we know we're going to have to improve again. We actually didn't feel like we played our best game at all in the Blast last year. None of the games were sort of smooth sailing compared to sort of the year before. Even that final, we didn't bowl that well to start with. We scraped it back to keep them to 190, which we thought was actually a reasonable score, and the way the boys chased it was phenomenal, obviously. But yeah, we didn't actually think that we played a proper game of T20 cricket where we almost dealt with the side. We didn't, whereas the year before we did that a few times, but last year we didn't quite do that. So there's a few things that we can work on, and we're trying to work hard on that in the winter this year.
You touched on it just now about how impressed you've been by some of the younger players who are coming through. In the last few years, we've seen the departure of some big names, like Hildreth, Steve Davis, a number of players who've left at the end of this season. Have you been impressed by how the younger players have come in and stepped up, the likes of Thomas Roos, JT Langridge being quite impressive, Finn Hill's been good as well? Have you been impressed by how these young players have come in and transitioned into the first team environment? I mean, once again, we've seen that the Somerset pathway is productive, and we've seen why it is the envy of the domestic game.
Yes, I don't know what they do on the academy, but they get it right. They just keep churning out players. I think the way, since I remember, since being on the academy, they've always brought players into the system, brought players onto the first team staff. And they could just keep doing it. So whatever they're doing, they're doing it something right. And the way they come onto the staff as well, then the older guys, us older guys, tend to think they're a bit cocky as the kids come through.
See, Jack Leach mentioned that. There's none of this when you guys came
in.
You sat in the corner
Yeah,
and your head down.
When I came in, I was definitely a bit scared of the senior guys. But whereas now the youngers come in through, and they're almost part of the dressing room straight away. But I guess that's partly because they spend so much time with us now in the summer, training with us. When we have net sessions, they come in and bowl at us, or some of the batters come in sometimes, but we bowl at them. So they're used to being in the environment, and I know they're not full staff, but that definitely helps them when they transition to come in and sort of. We've had sort of this winter, we've had Kean and James Theeden join us, and they were bowling at us all last summer, so they know everyone's faces, know how to sort of who they are as a person, and they just come in and just fit in the same seamlessly. But yeah, Tiru hasn't quite been in yet. He's off jet set in the world playing cricket somewhere else, and all credit to him. But yeah, he's the way he fitted in last summer in the T20, and he didn't look out of place a single bit. And I know he didn't quite get the runs that he would have wanted, but the games where he did play, he showed glimpses of it. And you see when he plays in those under-19 games, he absolutely dominates everyone that he's playing against, and he's a phenomenal talent, just like his brother, which is very annoying because they're very good at what they do. But they're credit to them. They both work really hard, and we haven't really seen them this winter, but I know they'll be working hard wherever they are. And we're very lucky to have the academy pathway, bringing in players that they do, and how seamlessly they fit in.
You mentioned it there. I'm going to politely put it that now that you're one of the senior pros, as opposed to old people, senior pros is what we'll say. Do you feel a bit of a responsibility to, put your arm around the new guys coming in, particularly the bowlers and all-rounders, and a bit like Tomo and Trees did? Well, maybe not like Trees did, but certainly maybe how Tomo did, and take them under your wing a little bit and show them the ropes and that sort of thing. Do you feel an added responsibility of that?
Yes and no. I think it's a big thing for those senior players to be able to help those younger guys come through, and teaching them you're not always going to be on it the whole time. I think you're going to have days where your body feels sore, you're not quite, there's stuff going on away from home, and you're not quite performing how you want to perform or whatever, and it's allowing those senior guys are there to help them, are their supporters basically. And when they're not quite right, those senior pros know what they need to do, and they're doing it day in, day out. And that's where I see sort of myself. I'm trying to be the best I can every single day, because I know I can be that now. Whereas when you're a youngster, you're going to get things wrong, you're going to make mistakes. Senior players also make mistakes, but you'd like to think it'll be less than what the youngsters do. And that's part and parcel of life. And you as long as you're learning from them, and the younger players that we've got here, they all want to learn, and they're all working really hard, and we're just making sure that they're going in the right direction, and they've all got enough skills to be able to sort of show what they can do. It's just making sure that we can allow them to harness them as much as possible.
We talked about the productiveness of the pathway. Excuse me, man flu. How important is it that Somerset's got such a strong working relationship with what used to be the minor counties is now the national counties? Obviously, a lot of the first team come from Devon. We've got players coming through from Cornwall, Dorset, that region. How important is it that Somerset County Cricket Club is about the region and not just about Somerset?
Yeah, it's massive. I think Somerset's in a very privileged position. We've got Devon's second biggest county in the country, followed by Cornwall, where there's a lot of people in that sort of area, but also you've got Dorset and Wiltshire that we can get players from. So we've got a very big region that we can pick from, and you don't want to just be restricting yourself to Somerset people. There's the amount of talent that's in Devon, Cornwall, Wiltshire, wherever. Even further abroad, it's further abroad that can help this team develop, and I think the link that we've got with those national counties now is a big thing. And we obviously had it growing up. Sort of there was a little bit when I was sort of growing up, but it's not as big as what it was now. When we get a lot of the young guys coming from sort of Devon and Cornwall coming in to bowl at us, and just them getting used to coming up and seeing what this environment's about is only going to help us in the future.
Let's talk about Craig Overton now. Obviously,
do we have to?
Well, your picture's on the screen, so it'd be a bit bloody weird if we didn't. So, obviously, you've been playing for Somerset for years, excelling in all formats. Did you have an inkling that there was an England call-up coming when it came?
No, not at all. Not at all. I knew I was going pretty well, but it was back end of 2017, September time, just got a call from, I can't remember who it was from. We were playing, who were we playing? I think we were playing just before the Middlesex game where we were about to get relegated, and we made that pitch that Angus Fraser didn't quite like. But
I don't know what you're
the pitch was a good pitch. Hildy got 100, so it can't have been that bad. As Hildy often did, where he got on those sort of pitches, he managed to get runs and got us into a position where we won the game. And I had a phone call. I think it was, I can't remember who it was. It was the chairman of selectors at that point. I probably should remember, but it goes erased from my mind because that Ashes tour wasn't the best. And just said you've been selected to go to Australia. So that was about it really. There wasn't really much more to the call because obviously we were mid-game, so I just said thanks and look forward to hearing from the coach.
You didn't think it was a wind-up?
No.
Jamie doing a funny voice?
No, luckily no. Jamie, I don't know where Jamie was if I'm being honest, but no. It was. I was more sort of interested on this game really, and making sure that we got on the right end of it and made sure we win and got the points that we needed to stay up. And luckily we did that. And then obviously it was focusing to get ready for whenever we left to go to Australia.
Obviously representing your country is the pinnacle. How did it feel to walk out on the pitch? We've spoken about what it was like to wear the wyvern/dragon. What was it like? We talked to Jack Leach and he talks about how excited he was when all his kit arrived and he got it all out. Did it feel real when all the kit arrived and you were getting on the plane and then you're training with all the best players in the country and you're abroad and you're having to put up with Steve Smith and people like that? Saw him cry on the telly though. What was it like to play, to represent your country?
Yeah, it was obviously phenomenal. That first morning, I think it was probably a good thing. I didn't actually know I was playing to about half an hour before the toss. And Mum and Dad were out there actually at that point, and I said, I'm in the 12, but I don't know if I'm playing to them the night before. And then we found out, we arrived at the ground and then found out, half an hour before the toss that I was playing, and I was like, can I go try and find my mum and dad to tell them that I'm playing? And they were like, nope, you're not allowed to leave the PIM away. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Obviously we weren't allowed our phones at that point because we arrived and we had to hand them in. Couldn't quite tell them, but they obviously saw from a distance in the crowd that I was getting a cap, so that was pretty cool. And I was very, very nervous that first it was an afternoon game, so we had sort of morning to chill and then obviously get to the ground very, very nervous once I filed out, and then obviously walking on. Luckily we were bowling first, so it meant that I was sort of straight into it. After watching Jimmy and Broady bowl the opening spell, I sort of came on straight after that, and that first sort of spell was just sort of try and get through it. Legs felt really heavy and wasn't quite how I'd want to perform, but as I got into the game I actually felt like I bowled pretty well and ended up with sort of 5-6 wickets in the match and did okay.
2025 was a big year, you saw a trophy win, but it was a big year for the club, integrating a women's team for the first time. As a Somerset manager player, how proud are you of the fact that we've now got a women's team? We've been talking, Sophie Love talks about it a lot. There's that, if you can see it, you can be it. How important, as a men's player, is it that we've got a women's team now? We've heard some nice stories about Jack Leach going to find Liv Barnes because he knew that she was a spinner and chatting to her, and Alfie Ogborn letting some of the players bowl at his face because none of the girls wanted to do it. How has that integration gone from your point of view?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal really. I think the way that the girls have sort of transitioned into sort of being here full time, and it's been, for us, it's been no different really, which is probably the trepidation when it sort of all was announced that is it going to affect our preparation and stuff. And credit to Sarge and the senior guys that have sort of managed to get it into the process of it's been, everyone's just sort of moulded in, and it's just been one team, and we all do things together. We either, ideally, if the whole squad is in, like men's or women's, the other guys don't use the gym at the same time because it's not the biggest gym, but whenever it's just a few people in, we can all just go in and just sort of muck in, and it's all, we're all just one club. And the way that sort of introduced the girls into sort of this environment, that's been phenomenal for them really. They've just sort of fitted right in, and nothing's really changed for us, and hopefully nothing's really changed for them, and they're just doing what we need to do to get ready for the summer.
Obviously, Sophie's been a huge part of the Somerset family for a long time. How has her role, do you think, helped to make that transition seamless?
Yeah, she's been massive. I know I wasn't part of the chats, but I know she spent a lot of time with Lewis and Greener, who was our sort of PCA sort of rep, just to find out what. And I think one of the other girls was in the chats with Sophie as well. I think it might have been Fran actually. Just sort of trying to understand sort of the struggles that the guys were having and sort of the struggles that the girls were having, and sort of trying to meet in the middle, and everything's been really good. I think to getting to know each squad was a big thing, and the way everything's just sort of gone into it, and it's just clicked basically, and we all sort of seen there's never been any issues with either team, and everything's just been really good, and we all share the same sort of pavilion, and it has just fitted in quite nicely.
What's the winter got in store for Craig Overton? Obviously, we saw you and the dog and the lads running around Seatown, not Seaton, the other day. What's the rest of the winter got in store?
Well, I wasn't supposed to be here, which is, I guess it's a good and a bad thing. I think I struggled with I had 2 hernias the whole of last summer, playing through it, and I had surgery in October, and we pushed it back because I was getting married, so which was fine. I think I probably took the right decision not to have the operation before the wedding, because I wouldn't have been able to walk. So
she'd killed you.
Yeah, I think she would have. So I had the operation slightly later than what we probably planned, but it meant I wasn't quite ready to go to South Africa, and I could have pushed it, but I wasn't in a position to push that, knowing that I was putting my body in a big risk to get injured when I was out there, because I had no loadings at all. I barely bowled off half run coming up to when we needed to go. I couldn't sprint, so it wasn't worth the risk of going out there and getting injured by snapping a hamstring or pulling a side, and then it was going to then miss part of our summer. So we made the right decision. I'm there and thereabouts, but I still haven't sprinted yet. So I know I made the right decision to sort of miss out on that, and so it's just getting ready for the start of our summer, and spending time running outside with the lads, getting wet and in the cold, and it's actually been quite nice to sort of have a winter off and just train a little bit and just spend some time at home and sort of chill out from the crazy world of cricket that it is.
What's going to constitute a good 2026 for Craig Overton and for Somerset?
Playing every game. I've already spoke to Jason and said, do not rest me any game next year. Unless I really need to rest, I don't want to be resting a game. So I want to play every game of cricket that I can for Somerset and make sure that we can win games of cricket. And I got the rationale behind it last year when I missed out at Sussex, but then obviously the next game we played Surrey, I had a little back spasm the morning of, and it meant that I missed 2 weeks out of cricket, whereas the week before I was fully fit and I could have played. So it was, I think we made the decision, and luckily the way the schedule works this year, it's 3 and then we got a week off and then 3 again. So it actually works quite well, and then it's the blast, and the blast is just the blast. You just know you're going to have to play games every other day, and it's only 4 overs, and it's my job to play cricket, so I just want to play cricket. So I'm probably a bit different than some of the guys around the circuit that think we play too much. I think we probably don't play enough. So, but that's me personally. I think as a bowler, I just want to keep bowling. I know there's limitations on bowling, lots and lots, but I want to keep in the rhythm of bowling and playing cricket. So having a week off is not necessarily good for me as I'm getting older. So I just want to keep bowling, and playing in games is good for me.